I'm gonna be very direct and say I got so tired of using a smartphone last year that I got a Japanese flip phone from eBay and used it quite a lot. I ended up having to switch back and forth between this and an iPhone because I needed a lot of features that weren't available on this. But the time that I got to use my flip phone since last year was so good. Probably the healthiest times that I've had for a really long time. Moments that felt like the 90s childhood era that I had where the internet wasn't that prevalent and you had to tell people, I'm going online now, before you actually went on your computer. I got so many moments of rest and peace when I had this. It's really remarkable. But after all that time, I definitely started to see that there were some good and bad things about a smartphone and good and bad things about the flip phone. And I wanted to tell you everything I could think of that really surfaced the longer that I used both of these devices, and just tell you what it's like to use a flip phone or a smartphone. And that way, if you're considering getting a flip phone, which a lot of people are these days, you're not alone. There are dozens of us.
Oh, stop booing. There's nothing wrong with it. There are dozens of us.
Dozens. I will start with just general good and bad things about the smartphone first. Maybe I've been living too much like a hermit lately, but I get so excited that I will write long rants in iMessage in texts when I have a smartphone. My thumbs will just go crazy. And then suddenly, before I know it, I have 5 paragraphs answering a simple question that a friend sent. So, too bad for my friends because they're going to have to read a lot, but good, I guess, if they want to hear a little rant. So, it's a lot easier to rant on this. My thumbs get a lot of joy out of pressing buttons really fast. It sounds so obvious saying it out loud, but that's really when I've craved a smartphone the most, when I had a flip phone. I just wanted to say so much. The next good thing about a smartphone that is alleged, I find it interesting, is that allegedly billionaires text and don't call because it takes up too much time to call people. I'd be surprised if billionaires never make phone calls, but that's just something to think about, because although I will never be a billionaire, and if I ever get close, I hope that I'll give away my money. I'm never gonna get close, but I like to have a mindset of I'm going to be more successful than the previous year in whatever way that may be. And maybe it's not in monetary terms, but I definitely like the idea of just being more successful in general. I don't know, maybe that's so specific to me, but that alleged comment that I heard once really stuck with me. So I thought I'd tell you. I'm being serious, but I sound like I'm not. The next good thing about a smartphone that a flip phone is probably incapable of is, from a technology, from a cybersecurity standpoint, I will pretty much always need to have a modern smartphone. I just really value the technological security features of a modern iPhone specifically. I feel much safer with that. I don't keep anything important. No usernames, no passwords, no SMS text authentication, nothing like that as far as I can on this device. Flip phones, just generally speaking, are not at the level that an iPhone would be. And unfortunately, because of security features, a flip phone can never really be my only device. The next more obvious thing that may be a pro is the fact that there's a camera on here on a smartphone and a video recording device, but it's a nuanced good thing. Photos on high definition on a smartphone will pick out every flaw that may exist in a photo, and that's not always a great thing, which in my opinion is maybe one reason why people gravitate towards film cameras, because not everything needs to be at the highest definition all the time. But for me personally, I feel pretty neutral. I think that the photos I take on the flip phone are quite cute actually. I'll show you an example right now, just briefly. This is a photo of my bunny on my flip phone. He has dirty paws, but you can't really tell on a flip phone, so it's not always a good thing, but I think it's quite good in general to have a nice steady camera and video capability on here, and quite a good microphone too, I'd say. This next point is talked about pretty often, which is the fact that traveling with a smartphone is much easier than with a flip phone. That's mainly just because most people these days don't have a separate GPS. I still have an old GPS from probably the early 2000s. It's so much easier to just look on Apple Maps for me personally. But for day-to-day, I don't think it's extremely important to have a smartphone for navigation because most places that I go to I've been before, and also new places are generally close to places I've already been. Now on to bad things about the smartphone. I have a few cons that I've listed. One is data collection. When I was working in the digital advertising industry around 2017 or so, I learned that 95% of the world's data is owned by big tech companies. And that's probably even more true now than it was before. And these devices are capable of storing a lot of data about the user. And the more apps that are downloaded onto here, the more apps that have access to download data. I don't think that that's necessarily a bad thing always, because getting targeted ads is more fun than getting random ads, for example. But sometimes I feel like I just want a break from talking to my phone and thinking about how many companies can hear me. But there are a lot of them, so that can be a bit of a con. For some people, a huge con. So leading into the next not so great thing about smartphones is government surveillance, which some people may say is data retrieval in the event of a legally approved incident. And if I were the victim of a crime, I think it would be a really good thing. I am never the perpetrator of a crime, so again, maybe a good thing. But still, the idea of having my data collected and retrieved if some people I don't know decide that they should, just the idea of it is still pretty creepy. The next con that I've suffered from a lot is just being addicted to my smartphone. And the way I would think about it is, how many moments in my life have I been on my phone when I should have been doing something else? That to me is what addiction really is. And thankfully I haven't had as many of those moments this year, because I've tried as a top priority type of task to get myself less addicted to my smartphone. So thankfully I don't feel that a lot of the time, but there's still a huge risk, and I think that the apps are just so easy to click on and scroll through. The next con about a smartphone is a bit obvious when I say it out loud, but a bit not obvious until I really say it out loud, which is there are a lot of things I can do with a smartphone that I can also do with my laptop. But a lot of the things that I need to do on my laptop are way more productive if I do them on a laptop. And that's just because user interfaces are designed to cater towards productivity on a laptop. And in my personal opinion, perhaps a little conspiratorial, user interfaces on iPhones and Android phones, other smartphones, are catered towards us seeing more ads and shopping and being entertained and consuming media. And because of that, I think that having a smartphone around makes me reach for the smartphone more often to do productivity tasks, but then I could get distracted by other things on my phone. Whereas if I have my flip phone around, then I gravitate towards my laptop when I need to be productive. So having a smartphone sometimes can give me the illusion that I can be more productive because it can do a lot of internet tasks and email and other things that I need for errands on here. But really, if I want to be productive, I still need to go and switch to a laptop or a desktop. I think that it can be confusing sometimes because my phone can technically do a lot of things, but should I? Sometimes maybe not. Those are the good and bad things that I've found with my smartphone, and now I'll go into good things about the flip phone. The most obvious thing right away is the aesthetic. Look, pretend I'm calling you. Hi, this is Jane. Yeah, I'm interested in buying insurance for my bunny. Great, thank you. Okay, now I'm gonna do the same thing with my iPhone.
Hello?
Hi, this is Jane. Yes, I'm interested in purchasing health insurance for my bunny. Okay, thank you. Okay, so I think that there's a clear winner in terms of cuteness. I think the pink one wins. First of all, because it's pink, but second of all, because it's a flip phone. This is an iPhone Air, and it's not cute exactly. I guess it's futuristic, but this is cute. This is cute. So if you want to maximize cuteness, we have a big winner here. The next great thing about having a flip phone that I knew would be true, but really becomes hugely true when I'm actually using this, is that if I have things to do that don't require the internet, I will get all of them done quickly. The other thing is, you may be wondering if you're at a bus stop or you're waiting for an Uber, although I guess I don't know how you get an Uber with a flip phone, but anyway, if you're waiting for something and you actually have nothing to do, most people would be like, well, I guess I'll go on my smartphone. But you can't really with your flip phone. There's not that much to do on it. I was so scared of those moments because I hate being bored, I hate not being productive, but I'm starting to make the connection that if I never let myself be bored, I actually get increased anxiety, like generalized anxiety where my body thinks something's wrong. There's something wired into my body at a very basic level where the moments that I was waiting for a bus or waiting for something to open, like a store, or just standing around, sitting around waiting for an appointment to start, all those moments where I really did nothing, those actually became real memories for me that made my day feel longer and made my week feel longer, that I didn't just forget from scrolling through the internet. And they physically calmed my body down, lowered my cortisol levels or whatever it was. And those were the moments that made my day beautiful, which is really strong wording. But there's some incredible health benefits to being bored. And I think it's the most amazing thing in the world. But I have to admit that before getting into those situations, before being bored, I think the idea of being that bored is a little scary. The next thing is a little sad, but also good, which is being on a flip phone makes me less reachable on the internet, on text messaging, on social media, etc. And first of all, when people find out that I have this, a few of them, some family and some not, will be very judgmental. And I quickly find out who really supports me and doesn't judge me for what kind of phone I use and who does. And that's sad. But the good thing is that the people who really care about me will give me a phone call or just maybe chuckle at me being silly and using a flip phone for a while, but they'll be nice about it. And I think that's really important because I don't want to be friends with people who want me to be the same as everyone else. I want to be friends with the people who can think critically and do what's right regardless of what everyone else thinks. So, my firm opinion is if you're worried about what people will think if you use a flip phone, just do it. I think that's true for most things in life. The next great thing about using a flip phone is just this feeling that I've had. I think it's because when I was on a smartphone, or I am now actually, this is my main device right now actually. When I'm on a smartphone, I don't have a lot of options because I'm getting it for the security updates and I'm getting it for general usability and connectivity with as many people as possible. And that really leaves me with a Google phone, a Samsung phone, or an Apple phone, and not a lot of other choices. And so it makes me miss those times about 20 years ago when phones varied a bit more. They would look different or they would feel different. And I like that idea. And part of choosing this flip phone was just getting more ownership over the color and the form factor and the design that I was looking for personally. And it feels more exciting that way to actually get a phone because I was finally able to prioritize what my style and aesthetic is, and that makes it so much more fun. And along those lines, I think that having the fun of using this flip phone also felt nostalgic. And I think nostalgia is a very powerful drug. And it reminded me of the happiness I felt when I was using my iPhone 4S for the first time. Just because it's so easy to hold in my hand. I have a normal sized hand, but I think that smartphones are made to basically be little computers, so they're never really going to be narrow, even the folded ones. And I also, using this flip phone reminded me a little bit of using my old BlackBerry that I never actually had connected to data. I just use it on Wi-Fi. But I love this little BlackBerry with the physical keys. And I remember that I got so used to these physical keys that I could type without looking. And sometimes I'd be talking to one person, which is not good, in person, and then texting someone else. But I really love this. So I personally am a huge fan of having physical keys so that I don't have to look so closely at my fingers. And I really have to stare at my fingers when I'm using the iPhone because otherwise I will press the wrong key on accident. And now I will finish by listing quite a lot of cons about the flip phone, unfortunately, but I'll try to go quickly. The first one is in the United States, my Japanese flip phone cannot receive group messages, it can't receive images, and it can't receive videos. So that's pretty major. It's pretty major and very intense because then I actually miss a lot of text messages from people. The next thing is specific to this Kyocera 902KC. There's a TV button on it. It's not going to work outside of Japan. Another major issue is that I cannot connect to data on this flip phone. Just can't get it to work. And unfortunately, that is very frustrating. But what's even more frustrating is that when this phone is on Wi-Fi, it doesn't really load websites. It can load Google search results, just the text, but then I can't click into anything. It can't even really load Reddit. It's pretty much just a calling and basic texting device. You could even say that it mostly just is a phone where you can phone call people. But it also actually, it does play the radio as long as you get a dongle. I got a Motorola dongle, and if I plug it in, this will be an antenna that will allow me to listen to FM radio, which is pretty cool. It also plays MP3 files. So it does have some features, but it just doesn't have the expected tech features of a phone in 2026. The next thing is a little sad. I have so much bad news for you. My phone provider, which is one of the most popular phone providers in America, sends a warning message when I plug a SIM card in here, essentially, in my words, not theirs, threatening for my phone to not work anymore because I'm not using one of its approved smartphone devices. In fact, On the employee backend, when an employee of my cell phone provider looks at my phone that's connected to my phone number and I'm using this, there will be no phone. It'll just be blank, where usually it says iPhone 14 or iPhone 13 or Pixel or whatever it is that you may be using. On their computer, they will not even be able to see the phone I'm using, because somehow things are coded so that they're basically disincentivized to help you use a flip phone, and they're incentivized to encourage you to buy a new smartphone, which is pretty disappointing, but also not really a surprise. So that's it. Those were the main things. I'm sorry I had to tell you sad things too, but at least now you know everything. So at the end of the day, which one is better? Well, if it's health first, you're prioritizing your well-being, I would say absolutely the flip phone. There's nothing like it. If you want to be aggressively productive, which is my mode of life right now, I would say definitely get a smartphone. And finally, if you want to live a comfortable life, this is a strange answer, perhaps, but I think that the flip phone wins, because the initial hurdle of using a flip phone is painful. The idea of losing a lot of tech features, being less reachable, the initial switch is very uncomfortable. But after that hurdle, after a few days, or even after a few hours, I think that a comfortable life is most possible and possibly only possible with a dumber phone or a flip phone. And it's one of those paradoxes where the more comfortable that I think we want to become, it always requires some level of pain up front to get there. And now I've left you with a philosophical statement that maybe will distract us all from the question of whether we should use a flip phone or a smartphone, but that was everything on my mind. I hope it was helpful. Please let me know if you have any questions. And for now, I will be using my smartphone, despite all the health benefits of not using it, just because I'm really on productivity mode right now, and I have to actually turn this off completely sometimes just to take a break and make sure that my smartphone addiction doesn't get too crazy. But I've been happy with how I've operated this year. I just have to be very careful all the time. This is like carrying like a dangerous weapon around every day. That's how I feel about this. Very beautiful, dangerous weapon. Thank you for hanging out with me today. You never really know what's going to happen next on this channel, but if you are interested in hearing more about my flip phone, I will link a video about how the first month of this went, and I go into a lot of detail in that one. See you over there.